southern side of the valley, looking north to the fire ground. We're halfway across the Bega Valley floor, Bega Mountain directly to the front. Being buffeted. Currently the camera is pointing towards the entrance into Punu Kurunpa. We're now driving east along the Snowy Mountains Highway towards the turn off into Desert Creek Road. Looking back towards the escarpment, drive to the top of that, look towards the Snowy Mountains, and you're looking at snow. This is August here in Australia. We've still got our home fires burning to keep warm. There's snow just over the top of the escarpment, and we're burning. The high ground of the front is Bega Mountain, coming around in underneath the walls. Back down towards the east and the entry into our property. Okay, we're coming up the Desert Creek Road now. It's still 6 kilometres to the property. Seeing up there on that spur line up there that's blackened out, so we're getting close to the fire front. We're looking at where the fire got to, obviously got to the edge of Desert Creek Road. They've successfully stopped it here. If we look to the east, we can see where it did spot over, but they've managed to get that out and snuff it. Okay. We've just reported to the fire brigade. We're looking down on Desert Creek here. This is the Desert Creek road running down into the re-entrant here to our place. Currently crossing Desert Creek. It's a dry old affair at the moment with the drought. But we're lucky we've got deep pools. And as you can see, no fire through here. So our immediate neighbour is safe. That there is the fire trail, which they've obviously re-dozed and opened in preparation. But what we're actually driving along here is Desert Creek Road. The block of land that we refer to as Punu Kurunpa is a bush block. Well, I got that wrong. The fire's been right here. Gates are open. That means they've been working it. This is now Punu Kurunpa, otherwise known as the 90 vertical acres. I should say that this property is a reserve. We've had the fire here. That'll be spot fires. No, it's not. It's the fire. There's native vegetation plants, etc. on this block. So the northern ridges look like it's a mess. This camera won't see any of this, particularly from the vehicle. As I say, this slope here on this side is southerly aspect. Not as fire prone as the other side. Settle down, Lane, it'll be right. We'll soon know. We'll soon know.
Too close to him.
It's fine. Just take it easy, mate, we'll be right. The cottage is just down below us here, and the fire's come up through. The rain's getting quite upset at the moment, and it is indeed upsetting. It's come through here very hot. As you can see, we've lost one 5,000 gallon tank, completely gone. We've still got one with water. It shows how hot it is. I had a heat shield here, and it still managed, this tank was full of water, and it still managed to convert it to what we see here. We are now in the wildfire ground, there's no doubt about it, and unfortunately it's obviously jumped from the northern slope to here, and I can only see burnt ground. I'll just turn off. Okay. We can only hope we put the cottage, we call it Hut Punu, in the correct place. We've certainly had the fire brigades in here after the fire's gone through, because they've driven over this lot and the ash. The hut's in view. In the past, the fire has jumped this area, that's why we've chosen it. The hut still stands.
Oh.
Well, what we call Hut Punu. Okay, mate, it's all right.
Oh, I don't believe it. Oh my God, I don't believe it. Oh.
There is no way, looking around, that this hut should have survived. The cottage should not be there. What we seem to have is that the northerly aspect of that ridge to our south has been raised, and it's over in there, down to the east, that the three houses have unfortunately succumbed to fire. Here the helicopter's working to our north, and we can see here, this camera won't pick it up, but we can see here that the The forests on the ridgeline up there to our south have in fact, the fire's crowned and gone through as a crown fire. It's obviously jumped the creek with a spot down onto our side, and it's followed the dry terrain straight up the spur line where it's taken out the tank at the top and burnt through the dry sclerophyll. Forests to our north there. Up Desert Creek to our west here is wet sclerophyll on our side, which is far more resistant. Here comes the wind. We've been warned to be vigilant by fire control at Bega Valley. They're expecting it to reignite, and burnt forest will burn again. Misnomer that it can't. The cottage, which we call Hunt Punu, has remained basically intact, although the firestorm has created one hell of a mess. But who can complain? Moving around the front of Hut Punu, we arrive on the front veranda, looking down at Desert Creek. We're fortunate to have pools of water aplenty at this part of the creek, which comes straight out of the Wadbilliga and other national park areas. Of course, that's looking back up there towards Bega Mountain. I just cannot believe the mess. That was a big wind. Add the fire, and this is what you get. That there is the biodiversity survey to date. As I said in writing earlier, looks like we open a new chapter, but the point is that Lorraine and I are getting a bit long in the tooth. Lorraine can no longer handle this rugged terrain because of medical condition, so it may be time for us to move on and find someone else to take it over. These up here are every forest type and species of tree on the block. What I suggest we do, mate, is we lock up, go home, wait for rain or declared blackout on the wildfire front. Once there's blackout, we'll gather our resources and come back in and start. It's going to be a long haul. All we can do is start by basically sweeping the floor in here and working out. We have been most fortunate. Coming around into the hut's main bedroom. I don't know why it's still standing. You can see the wind is just blowing stuff even under through and past the door seals. So any spark had to come in with that all over. We deliberately don't have gutters on the roof here so there can be no collection. We weren't here, but there's sprinklers on the roof, which we would have had running if we had been here before we ran. With this particular fire, we would not have stayed. We would have packed up and run. That is why we haven't been back in. And even now, we've been warned several times to be vigilant. I've walked this whole 90 acres doing a biodiversity survey, and even standing here now I can see specimen trees of the variety of species here that I've logged. They're gone, they're down. The wind is due westerly and it's building and building, and they know it's going to build a lot more. Smoke's starting to come back over us. The observation choppers just went up to the end of to the head of the Desert Creek here to obviously have a look and check it out, because there's a lot of fire still burning up there, working its way through to the north of us here, and up into the further into the Wadbilliga National Park, which is also a threat to the area of Brogo and Warrigal Range. There they go, having their sticky beak. And thank you very much. As I said, we deliberately don't have gutters here. And once the sprinkler's going, it covers the whole roof and it just rains. So we had the potential of running 10,000 gallons here as we ran, but we weren't here, being absentee landlords. Everything down here is the underparts of the structure are fully sealed off, so no ash can get in under there at all. That there is the bathroom. Oh, what a mess. But what we have here is the toilet with a view. We've been hearing a grey thrush singing in this little area, and if you have a look, the all this digging of the mosses and everything that are normally thriving here in the wet ground that we have, those springs up above us here, and you can see it's the lyrebird that's done. The lyrebirds have been using this little remnant from the fire to dig amongst and feed. So even with the fire having gone both sides of us, I might add, it's on the other side of the hut here, this little wet area has in fact survived and is now providing a little bit of resource. See, that's a spot there. That's where the fire is spotted in, but it just hasn't been able to get a hold of the moss and what have you. Wasn't quite dry enough then. I'll guarantee it is now. That's a river peppermint, Eucalyptus salata down there. Posts such as these, they'll be in a sequence of 4. The one up there is burnt and down, roughly 20 square metres of a rectangular area where I went through periodically and logged every plant growing in here. As you can see, what was a rich little niche is no more. But because it's been 15 years since fire actually went through here, the seed bank will be viable, very viable. This is the trouble with too frequent a burn coming through. For the healthy forest, the seed bank needs 10 to 20 years, according to the boffins, to build itself up. Back there I was looking at Eucalyptus elata's reproductive system. They are still up there in the trees. The little nuts, they've been preheated, and they will be opening and dropping more seed from the sky into the seed bank that is in this soil, now atched down. All it needs is rain, and it can come back. What it can't handle is frequent burning. You change the ecology and you disrupt what the first Australians did here with their so-called fire stick farming. And this is why we're not out of the woods. We can cut these fires off, we can find mineral earth and build the fire breaks with dozers and everything, but I'm afraid when you're looking at some 5,000 hectares of this, what puts the fire out is rain. And unless we get rain, and good rain, we're in trouble. The boffins tell us we're going into a season of El Nino, which means the likelihood of a dry summer. That will burn for weeks. It was an Angophora floribunda. This one was standing. It's come down with the fire. It was in the transect and a habitat tree. The only sign of life I've seen as I've walked through here is, at the moment, is a few of the diggings of long-nosed bandicoot. This was also a habitat tree in the transect. And the fires got down into the the resident brush-tail possums little lot. One would have presumed they headed high, but they've lost their home. They would have got very hot, but I suspect it hasn't been totally preheated. It's just gone through very quickly and hasn't probably preheated the volatile oils so much. But that's the nature of a southerly aspect. Best get back to the love of my life. The remnants of a lyrebird mound. Upon here he danced and fluffied the feathers. The interesting thing is, I can't see where water from a tanker has been used to dampen the edges of these fires. I have been a member of the bushfire brigades. But by the same token, the trucks have been in here, but after the fire. That there is their wheel tracks. And they did not use the standby stort system for fighting the fire. I'd say it was all over by the time they got in here. Just a feeling. But ever so grateful to them. Particularly the chopper pilots, and one's dead. Up at Ulladulla. Their bombing activity, magnificent, magnificent. Being a Vietnam veteran, I know you hear stories about it, but I love the choppers. And look at that, it's actually trying to rain. Don't hold your breath, but